Good morning, guys. If you're on Facebook Live, good afternoon, good evening around the world. This is Dr. Rob, the Addiction Doctor. This is Breaking Through Addiction. And as usual, my co-host, the beautiful Jennifer Lovely. Good morning, Jen. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing really well. And I'm doing even better since I've been taking that MCT oil. But I really am excited about taking Mike's Diamonds Mind Fuel because I have a feeling that might be even more better for me. But
yeah.
I'm enjoying not having the crashes.
Tell me about MCT.
Well, basically what it is it's just brain octane. It's just a natural, formula. I don't know all of the things that are in it, but it's like natural oils, and I'm sure somebody will come on here and tell us what it is. But it's the same guy that makes the coffee, the brain coffee.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So anyways, I stopped taking it for a while, and now I'm taking it again, and I feel like
a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Can you send me a link for that? Sorry, guys. I'm sorry to talk personal here. Me and Jen's just sorting a few details out. Can you send me the link for it?
Sure, I can.
We got the MTV. We got the Peloton coming.
Yes, I love it.
Good. I know. So my week's been crazy busy, and we've also, you must know, guys, from following us and watching us, we had some great views yesterday. That our live Facebook thing is amazing, and we did do a kind of recovery morning yesterday where we did 3 or 4 in a row. I think we've got 2 this morning to do in a row, which is awesome because that's what it's about. It's about recovery. It's about health. It's about mental injury, all that great stuff. Before we go any further, guys, I want to tell you about Living Recovery Interventions. Recovery begins today. Recovery begins together. Give the gift of recovery, guys. Travis is a good friend of ours. Absolutely amazing. He's been from, this is crazy, guys, a Xanax seizure on several occasions to a car crash at 120 miles an hour. He almost died in that car crash. If a loved one is in trouble, guys, call Travis, 801-573-4188, or visit his website. It's livingrecoveryinterventions.com. And remember, guys, recovery begins today. Recovery begins together. 801-573-4188. How about that? That's pretty good, wasn't it? I'm getting pretty good at this.
You are. You're getting good. And he has a speaking engagement with like UCLA sporting event, basketball players, which is super amazing, talking about addiction. So I love that we are making and creating mainstream.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Yep.
And guys, you got to keep tuned, guys, and you got to keep watching because over the next several weeks or months, you'll see this show absolutely rocket to another dimension because that's where it's going. We're trialing it on Facebook and over 65 platforms. So any single, platform you can, iTunes, Google, we'll be on there. But we want to take it to a different level. We want to take it to a show around the world that everybody can tune into once or twice a week and get some really good information. So we're here for not only this show, not only to have fun, but we're also here for information. And we're also here to help people understand better mental illness. And we're going to take it into the 22nd century because me and Jen are way before our time. We ask the questions you're not supposed to ask. We know stuff we're not supposed to know. That's why we have a 97% success rate in Rob Kelly Recovery Group because we know stuff and we've really, really put our work in and education in, and evidence-based facts are there and research have done. And we're just sick of watching people die through this bullshit that we're going through.
We are, and not to mention, not just that, but suffer. Like, we don't actually have to suffer.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, Julie Cummings is on the show. She's coming up next. You don't want to miss this one. A font of knowledge. Got a great story as well. And doing things that on the same level as us. So stick around, guys. Back in a few seconds. Hey, guys. Welcome back to this Breaking Through Addiction. My name is Dr. Rob, the Addiction Doctor. As usual, with Jennifer Lovely. And our guest today is Julia Cummings. Good morning, Julia.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm
good.
Yeah.
Good. So just a little bit of transparency here. Julia and I have a history together. We friends, neighbors. Our kids grew up together, went to the same private school together, and she actually watched me grow up.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. Absolutely. We've already started hitting the viewers at the moment, just coming in. Julia, tell everybody what you do.
I am a betrayal trauma coach, and I help women get through their initial, well, and beyond trauma when they find out that they've been betrayed. And usually that is surrounding porn addiction or some other more serious sex addiction. And the range is huge. So, I mean, just to call it porn, it doesn't do it justice because there are so many avenues to that. So
There is. And, you know, this is coming up more and more, Jen, isn't it? Well, porn is sneaking in now. It used to be, and I always say this, porn addiction now is where the gay guys were back in probably the 90s. It's like, we know it's there, but no one's talking about it. And why isn't anybody talking about it? We had a sex addiction, a guy on yesterday in recovery and teaches classes and is a great counselor. And he brought this up as well, this is the underground movement that most people do, but no one wants to talk about it. It's like that uncle, that is a bit dodgy, but you're not going to say anything to parents in case you're wrong. So It's awesome that you're doing that. So a normal person comes to you, tells their husband is behaving all sorts. I mean, tell me what happens there. A betrayal. I've never had a coach who specializes, or a counselor who specializes in betrayal trauma. That's amazing, because that's what it is. It's betrayal. It's trauma. Whatever there's alcoholism or addiction or any sort of dysfunctional family, there is always trauma, and that's what people don't understand. So tell me what usually happens when somebody comes to you brand new.
Well, the first thing you usually do is just sit and listen. I mean, you need to listen to their story and know where they're coming from. Oftentimes, these women have been living in a place of being gaslit for forever, for sometimes years and things like that. And so there is a lot of trauma going on, a lot of self-doubt. More often than not, they think they're the ones that are crazy. So, I mean, gaslighting is a real thing. And
tell people what that is. Tell people what gaslighting is.
Gaslighting is a term used when your significant other or another person, but in this case, a significant other, that is turning the tables on you and making you feel like the crazy one. So if I come to my spouse and I say, I found this receipt at a hotel and, I don't know what it's for. Why would you be at this hotel or whatever? And you're letting them know that you're not trusting them on some level. And they flip it and they make it seem like, oh, you're crazy. Why would you think that? Of course. And I have all these reasons and blah, 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 blah. And it just goes on and on and on. And when you go through years of that, you just are pretty convinced that you're crazy.
So it's interesting because recently I had an unlikely person show up in my life that validated all of the crazy. Then it wasn't me. And she just said, like, I've just watched years and years of they've made you crazy, Jen. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think this is really crazy. And I'm really afraid for my daughter. And so I was like, I was overwhelmed because it's like, for the first time I was validated was when my son went to rehab the first time. And now I'm validated again. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But what I'm really clear about is that I realized that I attracted those people into my life because of the trauma I had when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I want to invite you into the conversation around what was your trauma when you were younger, that you were seeking validation.
For me personally.
Yeah.
Gosh, well, I was raised in an alcoholic home. That's huge. And you guys are very well versed in that type of life. And So it was a home where my dad was a public figure. And because he was a public figure, we couldn't talk about what was going on. So everything was hidden and a secret. So I grew up not being able to talk about that. And my dad was also probably addicted to porn on some level. I grew up with a stack of Playboy magazines that sat on my mantle and were around all the time. So in a little girl's mind, you are very, gosh, how can I say it? You're just, to be exposed to porn at such a young age, you have a twisted idea of what that is, of what relationships are. And because my dad was so busy and out of the house, that is what I attached to. That's what my dad would pay attention to, right? So I had some really distorted thinking about surrounding sexuality and all of that growing up, along with being just kind of neglected on some level because of the alcoholism. My dad was high functioning, but nevertheless, it was there. And there was a lot of stuff that I just couldn't talk to anyone about. So at a very young age, I found myself depressed. And yeah, so there's a lot of trauma around. I would call those little T traumas. It's not like something huge that happened in my life, but all those little T's end up adding up to a big T trauma. Yeah.
So you said before, like just before we went on air, that it's porn addiction. It's not just porn addiction. We was talking about porn and dysfunction. It's more than that. Explain what you meant by that.
Yes. Well, a lot of people just attach sex addiction to porn, but there are people who are, gosh, trolling on the internet. There are people that use Craigslist to hook up. There are people that use what's it called, the goggle things that take you into.
Oh yeah, the VR, yeah, virtual reality. Yeah.
There are people that use that.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it's extensive. And then there's your typical prostitution, massage parlors, and strip clubs, things like that. But usually it starts with something very small, and it just keeps going. Also, just constant masturbation. I remember talking to a young man once who he was all of 19, and he could not get through an hour without masturbating. He would have to drive in and find a bathroom so that he could masturbate. So it like I said, it's extensive, and it goes from A to Z. It's just, yeah.
So tell me about how you came to betrayal and trauma as it relates in your own relationship.
Yeah. So I had a great marriage. We had a great family. I have 4 children. And when my youngest was graduating from high school, we kind of decided, you know what, maybe we should make a change, and let's, my husband needed a boost in his career and things. So something came up that was just a great job opportunity for my husband. And we had been married for about 27 years at this point. And so we decided to move from Southern California to the Northwest and take this job. And I don't know what happened to my husband, but it just over the course of our first year up there, something in him snapped. What actually happened was, and again, this is a tale of caution to people out there. My husband was playing games on his phone. He was playing Words with Friends and Scrabble, and you can talk to people that you're playing. He had opened up his phone to be able to play anyone, anywhere in the world, and whatever. And one day a woman texted him on the app, because you can talk to the people on the app. And she said, "What's your deepest, darkest fantasy?" And that was his moment of turning. and he ended up having about a 9-month, sexual encounter affair type of thing over the internet, or actually over the phone, should I say, with her. And then there were a couple other women as well. At the point that I found out, my husband was he was 3 days away from actually meeting up with one of the women and having it become, a full-on physical affair. So this was very emotional, but also sexual in nature. There's a lot of that goes on over the phone, the internet. And part of my story is, so we kind of worked through that initially, and I thought everything was great. And my husband thought everything was great. And what we didn't know. And part of what we didn't know was it had developed into an addiction. We thought it was a marital issue, and it had developed into an addiction. So a year later, we found ourselves in a similar position. And I basically said to my husband at that point, either you need to go to rehab or we're getting divorced. And because I wasn't going to put up with that. So he went through rehab, and it was very, very good and very beneficial. And he's a different human being today because of it. So
that must have been traumatic for you, because the betrayal coach was betrayed, especially with everything that about that. So how was that for you? I mean, when you found out, when you opened the phone, or you found out that day, talk to me about what happened to you internally and psychologically.
Well, at that time, I was not a betrayal coach, just so you know. It's because of this that I moved into that. So my background is I was a marriage and family therapist. And so, as a marriage and family therapist, I know it all, right? I know how to have a good marriage, and I know. And I had allowed myself to do the gaslighting. He was definitely doing a lot of gaslighting. And I continued to know something was not quite right. And he kept feeding me to the point where I was so depressed that I had actually written suicide notes, and I was ready to take my own life at that time. This was before finding out. So when I actually found out, I snapped out of depression. It was actually a really good, positive thing for me. It was devastating. I was definitely, what happens to you in that initial trauma is the adrenaline just takes over. And so I was on high alert, fight or flight, like for a few weeks, and had to exercise constantly because that was the only way I could diminish that, fight or flight feeling without going on medication. I didn't want to go on medication. So, but for me, it snapped me out of my depression, which was a good thing. But on the other hand, I was, of course, devastated and in tears all the time. And, yeah.
Sorry, Jen. So you went on medication because of what happened?
I didn't want to go on medication. So no, I did not go on medication in my case. Many women do go on medication because that's what they need. And I fought that. So it just depends on the person, because some people can fight it and some people can't. Some people have probably needed medication for a long time. And so, yeah, it's so individual, and you really need to take into account the individual and what they need.
I'm really present too. It's funny. It's like, as we're having this conversation, I'm sort of going back into my own personal life going, I've been gaslit since, I don't know, maybe 5. Yeah. And then like, I had to exercise all the time. And I remember like when Jake first went into rehab, I was going to yoga 4 times a day just so I could manage this. But then all the crazy making in my life with the men that I chose, and how much I had to exercise or either go on medication in order to do this. And so there's a conversation around not to make men bad, right? This isn't about men bad. This is about women do the same thing, right? Like but there's a real conversation around how do we support human beings on like what is healthy, what is not, how to, what is, how to be in relationship with people. And that really is the conversation, because it seems like there's a lot of people that are walking around like, look at how people are responding in the political place. We're adult children traumatized responding in these ways. And so can you speak to that, Julia?
Well,
that's a lot.
There is a lot there, because, I think that most people are walking around with a little bit of trauma in their life. And then there are those with a lot of trauma. And obviously, and I love that you brought up the political piece, because obviously those people who sit behind their screen and can write horrible, ugly things about other people, and there's something to that. There is something so much deeper there. And I wish people would take the time to look at themselves, because to hide behind your screen and just, whether you agree with them or not isn't the point. It's the ugliness. It's the, it's just the sheer ugliness of what people have the ability to say and how much that affects people. And, I look at kids today with the social media and think about all the little traumas that they experience every day on social media. It's mind-boggling, really, when you think about it, and a little scary and sad. I don't know if you guys have seen the Netflix thing, Social Dilemma. I have not watched it yet, but I've heard a lot about it, and I've heard it's amazing. But the fact that the suicide rate has gone up so much, and which isn't a surprise, with things like that. But I agree, Jen. We're all walking around in trauma all the time, and everybody's coping. I mean, think about why why is it just taken over? People are addicted to caffeine and sugar, and you've got the monster drinks, and these things are things that are normal and acceptable in society, but it's everybody's way of coping with whatever size trauma they've had.
I know Dr. Rob will occasionally post stuff like Suboxone, you're not sober if you're on Suboxone, right? And then people attack him. They attack him. And it's his opinion, but we're not allowed to have opinions anymore. Right. I didn't mean to do Dr. Rob.
I know, but it's crazy. People get, when you start telling the truth, people get very defensive these days, especially Suboxone, even energy drinks. Someone came in the office about 2 years ago with 2 energy drinks. So what are you doing? Well, I'm just drinking these. And this is an alcoholic in recovery, by the way, or an addict in recovery. I'm like, well, does it affect you? Oh, yeah, it gives me a buzz and gives me energy. I said, say that again very slowly. Oh, I said, yeah. Why are you taking stuff to make you feel better? Why don't you just go back and take cocaine? Guys, Julia Cummings is on the show, and what an amazing chat. We'll be back after this break from Recover Me Coaching. Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Dr. Rob, the Addiction Doctor, along with Jennifer Lovely. Julia Cummings on the show. This is Breaking Through Addiction, and today we have 2 shows for you right now, and again at the top of the hour we'll be having another show, so stick around, guys, if you want to learn something and you want to hear something great. Sorry, Jan, carry on.
It's okay. So what do you want women to know? What do you want humans to know, not just women? How do we step forward into our relationships? Yes, helping people out of betrayal, but also how to really co-create relationships that are lasting and honest.
Gosh, well, the hard part about a lasting and honest relationship is it takes 2 people to be honest. And oftentimes when, as you know, very well, when someone's stuck in addiction, they have a really hard time with being honest. So really when a woman has been betrayed like this, it's one of the most difficult aspects of it is deciding what's right for you. It's not based on anything that anyone else has ever done. I will talk to women who they will tell you it was a mistake to ever tell my family what was going on because she chose to stay with her husband and the family can't get past it. So you've got that type of thing. And then you've got the woman who just wants life to be normal so bad that she just goes right back into it without anybody doing any work. And she continues to stay in it and be victimized by it because she just needs life to be normal so much. So if you don't have both people being honest, the relationship's going to be really, really hard. And once you've, I'm sorry, Dr.
It's not impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but when you've got both people, when he or she, because this does happen to men as well, and unfortunately, men don't come forward as much. They don't get the help they need as much. It's not quite as prevalent, but it's there, definitely. But if you don't get both people, like I said before we came on, that it's so important that women know that they're a victim in this situation. Oftentimes when you're talking about drugs or alcohol, there is a codependent situation where that codependent person has somehow enabled the behavior, right? Well, once a woman finds out, and if she continues to live the way she's living without dealing with it, then yes, she's codependent. But one of the re-traumatizing things for women in this situation is to go to a therapist who's not trained in this, or a coach who's not trained in this, and they keep throwing the word out, codependent. And that woman will be re-traumatized over and over and over again because she's hearing that she did something wrong when all she knows is, I never knew this was happening. I've been blindsided, and she's being told in her trauma that she's doing something wrong. And so if you get the wrong coach or therapist, you've got re-traumatization over and over and over again. So back to your question, Jen, for the relationship, it's really going to take both people working on their crap to make that relationship work. Full honesty, like you said, and things like that. But if one person can't do that, then the relationship is not going to be a healthy one, even if you choose to stay.
It's amazing these days how I know probably thousands of people who have turned their licenses in for counseling, psychotherapy, to go coaching, because the guidelines to stay in, especially for Texas State, are almost impossible for the new coaching age, which is unbelievable. And we get guys here and they go, well, I've been in treatment for I've been seeing a counselor for 12 months. I'm like, if this is for us because we're so aggressive. When you come to us, you see a difference from day one. It's like when Jen works for you in the first day, people call me up and go, oh my God, I have never heard anything like that before. It's like, well, you should be. You're going to the wrong coach or counselor. It reminds me of the story I tell in England where a woman was kidnapped. I'm not going into the full story, but eventually they found him in this guy's house and she was in like a big box. And they opened the box and there she was, still alive, but bruised, battered, and he used to take her out and sexually abuse her and feed her and put her back in the box for 9 months, Julia. Wow. And finally the police found her and they opened the box and there she was, bloodied and battered. And the police woman helped her out. And what's the first thing she did? She got back in the box. Now, if that doesn't touch you, people watching this, I don't know what does. Think about that. She got back in the box. It's what Julia was just talking about, because she didn't know any better. And the box then became a safe place to live. Even though these horrible things was happening, the brain gets transformed into this is my new safe place, and to bring somebody out that like Julia does, with the trauma and the recalculating of the brain is such a special skill that I'm sorry, guys, but if you're a counselor that hasn't changed your teaching from 1940 and 1950 textbooks, and you graduated from your 6-month counseling course, it doesn't cut it. You're not doing the job. And I hate to be hateful, but if you're not doing the job, and again, going back to what Julia says, and we fully agree with this, then you're doing more damage than good. And it's a shame. But people think, oh, I've got a counselor, I have a sponsor, or whatever it is. No, this is your life we're talking about. You need to interview that counselor. You need to see and ask at least 3 people that she's seen that are living the dream today. Because if you're seeing a counselor or a therapist and you're not living the dream, try a coach. You can bet that coach is highly qualified, but will take you places that the textbook in 1950 won't take you. Because 10 years ago, we found the brain was plastic. We can redirect neural pathways. Neuroplasticity is what I specialize in neuroscience. 10 years ago, that wasn't available. So you need to ask yourself, well, if these guys are still teaching from 1950s and 60s textbooks, then where do I stand? Because as far as I'm concerned, if you go and see somebody, you should see a difference. A tiny difference maybe, but you should see a difference after day 1. If you're not, fire them, get in touch with Julia, or get in touch with us. There's the website at the bottom. We're running out of time, unfortunately, Julia. We've got another one at the top of the hour. I'm going to let Jen take you out in a minute and say thank you. But for me, I want to say it's a breath of fresh air listening to you, listening to your passion for what you do and the understanding. Someone asked me the other day, why are you so good at what you do? I said, because I'm a chronic alcoholic. That's the bottom line. I know stuff that probably other people don't know. You see, I know what it's like when they take the kids off you because you've done a 3-day bender and not been fed for 3 days. I know what it's like to stab your wife 3 times because she won't let you finish. I did all this stuff. And I'd say the stuff I do today is 10% education and 90% experience. So thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for what you do, by the way, because you have that passion. And I love that passion. It's just like me. I just have that, we're either going to do this, guys, or we're not. But we're going to do something. We're not going to hang in that gray area in the middle for the next 5 years while I keep charging $150 an hour. No, stop it. Get out the box. Get out of the box. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia, for sharing your story. What do you want to leave people with?
If I can just plug really quick, the APSATS community, and that stands for the Association of Partners of Sex Addict Trauma Specialists. And it's an organization that trains therapists and coaches how to deal with people in betrayal trauma. So if you are looking for a coach or a therapist, look for someone who's got that training, and that's called APSATS, APSATS. So that would be my big plug. But my plug to women is just to know you're not crazy. You're not crazy. You're not alone. And you can heal.
Awesome. Yes, you can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi guys, welcome back. If you just listened to that, because I know you did, a few people watching there, that was pretty good. I like that. I like the passion, and I like the if other counselors are not qualified for what you're going through, they're doing more damage. I like that, Jen.
I do too. I really, it's powerful, and why do you think so many people use the word crazy? Because it is a word that people like. I spent, I don't know, all these years, like my own life, you're crazy, and then my kids heard it and they'd be like, Mom, you're crazy, right?
Yeah.
We're not on drugs. You're nuts, right? Why do you think people use that? What is that?
One of them, it could be a defense mechanism where we spin it on you. And then secondly, lack of education, what words really mean. It's just like a buzzword that's going around. It's crazy. It's like people going to counselors for like 2 or 3 years. I asked them, why'd you go? Well, it's my safe place. Counseling shouldn't be your fucking safe place. It should be the place you go where you get all your shit out and the stuff you take into the grave with you. If you're going to a counselor, it's your safe place. Get the fuck out of there. You don't belong there. If you want to really live the dream, you don't have to be sick for a long period of time. You don't have to be depressed for a long period of time. There's an answer. Come into the 22nd century treatment, like me and Jen. You know, if you're not happy with your counselor, here's what. Well, shocker alert. Fire them and find somebody who's doing the job.
Well, you know, I mean, there should be safety, but the thing is that there should be a challenge. We should be challenging old belief systems, being able to move forward. There's a challenge, you don't just go there just to vent.
Exactly.
It's not about that. So
I love that. Guys, this has been Breaking Through Addiction. Julie Cummings was on the show. We'll be back in 5 minutes with a new guest, John Egan. You want to stick around for this one as well. This is going to be a good one. So for me, guys, I want to say thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Stick around. We're back in 5 minutes. But for now, thank you so much indeed.
See you soon.
Bye, guys.